Welcome back to our 32 for 32 NFL preview series. We are talking Tampa Bay Buccaneers and a lot to unravel here in Tampa. We have, first off, new old uniforms. We're uniform guys, so Let's talk about it. I kind of like the look. I wish they would have went back creamsicle.
Yeah.
But I don't mind. This is their lineage. This is their championship uniform. The color, the pewter, all that stuff. What's your take on it?
Well, pretty much they could have done anything and it would have improved their uniform.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Literally anything. There may have been the worst uniform in the history of pro football. It was just awful. I'm like you. I would have preferred the creamsicle, but I'll take this. I don't know how much of a fan I am of the all pewter.
Yeah, I don't like that. But I guess it's just the color rush. So I'd actually like to do that with a white pant or maybe a.
So you're white. Are you a white pant guy the same way you're pro white helmet?
I am pro all white uniform. I think it looks sharp.
Yeah, it depends. I like
what's their secondary color? I mean, above us, it's a red. It's a Buccaneer red, but they really use orange too to accent everything. So, if they went with the pewter top, pewter helmet, would they go orange pant or the maroon?
There's no more orange.
Isn't there orange trim in it still?
I don't think so. I think the cannonball got to the orange.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm okay. Look, I'm okay with that because you can't have orange with this. That's what the most recent uniform proved.
Fair
you
enough.
Either go the creamsicle route, you go the pewter route. They're heading in different directions. You cannot interweave them.
Fair enough. All right.
Yeah. You like how I use that with the hands as well?
I did. So let's move on here. Comments from Bruce Arians, and we have to discuss this with everything that's going on. Days ago, Bruce Arians told his players, and forgive me for looking down, I just want to read it. I want to be precise here. This is from Pro Football Talk. Arians tells players to take action. Quote, protesting doesn't do crap. Arians, quote, your responsibility is to take actions. I don't know that protest is an action. I think each guy has a personal thing. I would beg them to take action, find a cause, and either support it financially or do something to change the situation, because protesting doesn't do crap, in my opinion. I've been seeing it since 1968, end quote. And that's Tampa Bay Buccaneers coach Bruce Arians. Granted, this is reading it, not hearing it.
Yeah.
But this is not a very good look.
Well, it depends on from which perspective he is coming from.
I agree.
When I listen to that, he's either coming from it from one of two ways. One of them is that he's attempting to silence the freedom of expression, the First Amendment rights of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers players who are aggrieved and want to protest. Alternatively, or conversely, this may be that he actually agrees with the people who would like to protest, but he himself is frustrated with this situation, among with many past social issues, that he believes that protesting is simply ineffective and wants to do even more. So if he's coming from that perspective, I'm not offended. The negative is when saying that, someone might consider that a call to violence.
I agree. It comes
That's one danger to it.
Right. And as an organization, Tampa Bay has been at the forefront of hiring people of color and different, they have women coaches on their staff.
Yeah.
So he's been at the forefront of this. So I think it just maybe comes off a little bit odd, doesn't come off in writing as well as it probably does in speaking.
Yeah. Knowing Bruce Arians, to the extent that I do, I think he's coming from it from the two perspectives that I was discussing, the latter as opposed to the former. And I think he's just frustrated with sometimes the inability, to take another issue, which is very germane to Florida, with assault rifles. I mean, you had after Parkland, you had many protests, but that it hasn't resulted in significant legislation to curb gun violence. So I think that he's just frustrated that protests just don't really amount to much, unfortunately. But what else? I mean, look, yes, you can vote, but I mean, even the things he's talking about. So join an organization. What is the organization going to do? They're going to protest.
Right.
Unfortunately, that is sort of it's your right as a citizen, but you're not really, particularly if you don't have the funds to actually lobby and influence legislators, both on the state and federal level. What other options do you have?
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And it was just one of these things that it's in the news. We have to discuss it. We don't back down from things in this program. We're very open about it. But let's get back to football. Let's get to football. And we're going to go to the acquisition screen here. And nothing to see. We should just move on, right?
No, is this some Brady guy, some Gronkowski guy, or I don't know,
wrestler of some sort?
Yeah, that's right. He's a WWE title holder. No, I mean, only 4 names there, but actually, if you count the number of Pro Bowls between the top 3, then the number of Super Bowl rings between the top 2. Actually, LaShawn McCoy now has one as well. That's a lot of Super Bowl wins. I mean, look, it's not often that during the free agency period you bring in literally the guy who is the GOAT. At least in the quarterback position, which is the most important position in all of football, and I would argue the most important position in all of sports. So, and then he brings his buddy, who's one of the best tight ends of all time, if not the best, out of retirement, and he comes along for the ride. And the Buccaneers didn't have to trade much to get him. So it's really those two are now, they define that team. That's how big a deal it is. And you think about it, I mean, this is an enormous deal, and it's made so much news given everything else that has gone on in this world this year. Imagine if this was just a normal season, how big a deal this would be. I mean, you would have every imaginable sports outlet covering every single practice. The preseason games would get record ratings. Every one of his games this season, so long as the team is in contention, they're going to get great ratings. So it is a huge. I can't even begin to describe to you how big a deal it is to bring Tom Brady at this, and particularly at this stage of his career, after all he's accomplished, to bring him to a new team. What is this? His 21st season in the NFL? 20th, 21st, something like that.
Yeah.
So
I believe was it 99 draft, right? 1999 draft. So that would make 99 2000 his first season.
Yeah, it's 20. It's either way. I know it's the record for someone who has been with a team for the longest period of time to then change teams. And look, it's a huge deal. There's no other way to put it. I can't even put it in more eloquent terms. And by the way, Joe Haig's a decent offensive lineman from the Indianapolis Colts, come in and probably provide some depth along the offensive line. That kind of that shifted there quickly, but just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, thank you to him. He's going to be like, nobody cares about me. Who cares? But good for him. He can kind of show up and do his own thing.
Yeah.
Let's get to the departures here in Tampa Bay, because there's some names there we're going to discuss further on down the line. But obviously, we go right to the top. Jameis Winston era, done and over with.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, he showed some promise some years, but he's the first ever member of the 30 for 30 club, and while in baseball that's a good thing, As a quarterback, the 30 for 30 club is not good, and it's going to get you kicked out of town. And that's 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. That's a lot of interceptions. You cannot turn the ball over that many times. And I think 30 interceptions. This team was 7-9, and if it wasn't for missing a easy 27-yard field goal, they beat the Giants. That's 8-8. Think about all those turnovers Jameis Winston had. That alone should have gotten them in the playoffs if they cut it in half. And so I mean that's why it's a major upgrade. Changing to Tom Brady at this point. Bo Allen, former Philadelphia Eagle, now is actually up in New England. Sort of a rotational defensive tackle at this point. Peyton Barber was decent as a running back, but I think that the Bucs are confident in their running back group. I don't know if I am, but we'll get into that more in a little bit. DeMar Dotson was a long-time offensive tackle for them. They definitely upgraded that through the draft. Rashad Perriman had come on, but I think that he wasn't worth the money that he was going to get elsewhere. So to me, the departure is not that huge. Brad Seaton, their COVID opt-out, that's more of a depth issue than anything else. He wasn't slated to start.
Definitely more better acquisition than departure.
Yeah, I would say so.
They continue to acquire. Let's take a look at the draft. And there's a couple names here at the top that I think is going to work out for Mr. Brady, hopefully.
I like this draft a lot. Tristan Wirfs, many people viewed him as the top tackle. There was definitely the argument to be made. He is a tremendous athlete. He's going to come in and start right away at one of the tackle positions. The second round pick, might be my favorite of the draft for the Buccaneers. Antoine Winfield Jr. is just a tremendous football player. The only reason he was drafted in the second round is because of his height. He's literally an inch or two shorter than the typical safety, and because of that, he dropped a little bit. But you know what? For everyone else's loss, that's definitely the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. He's going to really be a cornerstone in that defensive backfield for years to come, even well beyond when Tom Brady eventually retires at the age of 58. It's a great pick. Their third round pick is another interesting one. Keyshawn Vaughn from Vanderbilt is more of a cat. I'd say he leans on the side of like the traditional third down running back, more of a passing option. Which, if you think about with Tom Brady, that's always really important because he has always involved his running backs in the passing game. But they're really counting on him to be a focal point of the backfield there. Tyler Johnson's a really big target. It's definitely like 6'4", 6'5". So an intriguing prospect from that perspective. And Khalil Davis, the 6th round pick, back in our mock draft show, he was actually one of the guys I said to keep an eye on. In terms of just crushing the combine, he did that. And again, as we've mentioned, in the 6th, 7th round, you're either drafting guys who have produced a lot on the field, or you're drafting for traits. And this guy is like 6 foot, a half inch, 300 pounds, and ran a 4.79 40. I mean, that's insane. Just a tremendous athlete. And I think that, he produced a little bit in Nebraska. I think you bring him along slowly behind some of their established veterans, he could be a good rotational piece. So I like the draft all in all. You get a good player like that late in the rounds.
We have 4 key questions for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020. And this is a great one. Who has more left in the tank, Brady or Gronk? I'd have to say Brady. Gronk to me was like the walking wounded.
Yeah.
He's like, Shane Douglas with the thing on the arm. And, he had to pad up, just literally pads on top of pads to get out there and play.
I agree with you. Even though he's older, I would go with, and he's older by almost 10 years, I think. I would go with Brady. Yeah, honestly, towards the end of his career and run with the Patriots, when I would watch Gronk, I was in pain watching him play. Yeah. Even the way he runs. Now, yep. I think he desperately needed the year off, and I'm sure to a certain extent he took care of his body. But
off balconies?
this is not a guy who, is ever going to lead just like a quiet lifestyle at home. He's the Gronk, but at least he rested his body to a certain extent. I'm sure he was having his fun doing other things, but so I think he was able to regenerate a little bit. But I would think that he's not. I think he has left less in the tank than Brady.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Do the Bucs have enough at running back? And I want to factor out LaShawn McCoy because I don't think we're talking empty tank. I don't think LaShawn McCoy has much left in the tank at all.
Well, to me, I think that just further compounds why I don't believe they do. And this is where, particularly running backs are affordable as related to other skill positions, right? And I'm surprised that they're going into the league, going into the season with, Peyton Barber, with Ronald Jones and Keyshawn Vaughn as their 1-2 punch. This is a situation where the guy we always talk about, like a Carlos Hyde, comes in.
Yeah, exactly.
And, there's always the roaming 1,000-yard rusher who is looking for a home. I don't think he's really that healthy anymore, but maybe like a guy like Jay Ajayi. I know Devontae Freeman is still available. That might make some sense. But as it is currently constructed, I don't believe that running back room is enough. I think that'll at some point plague them.
I would agree wholeheartedly with you. Let's talk about rooms and is it enough? Your thoughts on the front seven? Do they have enough on the front seven? Do they have enough on defense?
Yeah, I like this front seven a lot. First off, between Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul, JPP is not quite at the level that he once was. He's also missing some fingers. I'm not trying to make fun of him, just sort of stating the obvious.
Don't play with fireworks, kids.
Yes, absolutely. PSA there. But that is a really good 1-2 punch in terms of a pass rush. Vita Vea, the big nose tackle that they drafted in the first round from Washington, is coming along. They have Ndamukong Suh, as we mentioned in another preview, who's really, he's still at minimum, he is very solid. So right there, you have a really good pass rush. And then also their two inside linebackers are really good, and Devin White and Levante David. So this is a very talented front seven. I like them a lot, and they can both get after the quarterback and stop the run. And you can do that with your front seven. I think you're ahead of the game.
On that note, is there an issue at defensive back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
I'm not quite as in love with the defensive backfield. You have some guys that are a little unproven. I think Antoine Winfield Jr. actually is going to, by the end of the season, be the best player. And I think that's partly a compliment to him, but also sort of just a reality of that the backfield is limited. But again, if you have a talented front seven and if you can get after the quarterback, your defensive backfield does not have to be as good. So that's the one thing in terms of this defense. Sometimes you usually have one area of the defense bails out another. Here, the front seven's going to have to bail out the back four.
We are going to bring this all together and have our thoughts on the Tampa Bay Tom Brady's coming up at our big prediction show at the end of our 32 for 32 series, where we will tell you, are they good? Are they bad? Are they better than a year ago? How much can the old man still have in the tank? That kind of thing. If you're a fantasy football player, check out Thrive Fantasy, scrolling down on the bottom. It's our affiliate partner for Daily Fantasy. They are willing to give out $50K week one of the National Football League season. That's $50,000, people. That's a lot of money. They have given out $1.8 million since 2018. Again, a lot of money. Deposit $20. Use code SEC247 and get an additional 20 or more. Tell them Mike and Brett sent you. Until tomorrow, I'm Mike. That's Brett. And we will see you later.